Start streaming. All right, and welcome back. We are MDEV1004, that's Mobile APIs and Frameworks, in the summer 2023 semester at Georgian, and it's week 2, part 1 of our broadcast and recording. And I was just saying that, again, not a lot of participation synchronously this week so far. I would have liked to see more people, but again, this isn't any different from what we saw last week. So thank you for the people that are joining me live. I do appreciate it. So we're sitting here at the second week of semester, and this week's all around JavaScript review, an intro to TypeScript, an intro to Node.js and Express. And I've also released assignment 1, which I'm going to do actually right now. And I've got a couple things. I don't think this is a difficult assignment, but again, professors, you know, with how they feel about stuff, right? Professors feel nothing is difficult, and then of course you do it and you're like, holy crap, it's way harder than I thought. But I'm going to go through the assignment with you in a bit. I have posted it so you can see what it is. It is due June 11th. That's week 5, so that's going to be like calendar week 5 from where we are today. There's plenty of time to get it done. I don't think it's like going to be taking you very much time at all, but there's a content component to it, and it is a group assignment. So what it means is, even if you're choosing to work alone, please join a group. That's all it means. So if you want to do it alone, you can totally do it alone. I've made enough groups so that everyone can do it by themselves. But if you also would like to work with one other person, that is allowed. You can work with a partner, and it's so you can do peer programming, which I fully support. I think peer programming is a good thing. On the downside, I think when we look at stuff, you know, sometimes I think people learn more when they do it on their own. That's my take on it. Okay, but you don't have to do it on your own if you don't want to. So I've released assignment 1. Yeah.
When you join a group, can you implicitly state that you want to do it alone?
No one should join your group randomly. If someone joins your group randomly, let me know and I kick them out. Okay. No one should join. The way groups work in my classes is you guys talk to each other, and then you kind of say, let's join group 10, and then you join group 10. If someone randomly joins your group, I don't care who it is, and you don't know them, please let me know, because you can't remove yourself. I can only remove people, right? So then I'll just remove them. Okay, so no worries. Last week we talked about, look, I said last week. Last week we talked about our course orientation, what is an API. We set up your environment a little bit. There's still more to do over the course of the semester. We'll add more. And version control, we went into quite a bit of detail about version control. We did a little bit of an example about Express and all that kind of stuff. I talked about the importance of videos and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to give more information about that today because I had lots of questions on email about videos. I sent a little email yesterday, a little note on Blackboard, which was the first one was kind of a copy of my other one that I sent out. And so, of course, I made minor errors, but that's fine. But the idea is that there's plenty of resources out there, is my message should have been to you. Plenty of resources out there to solve your problems. And on top of all that, the other thing I wanted to mention was that the due dates are firm, right? So please, you know, I had some people that reached out to me yesterday. They reached out to me on Saturday. They reached out to me on Friday, and they all asked me for extensions, and I all said no to all of them, or I didn't respond. Right, so if I didn't respond to you, it's not because I don't care about you. I do. It's just that, like I said, on the weekends, on Saturday and Sunday specifically, availability is nil. And generally, if you're asking me for an extension on Sunday, for example, hi professor, here's an example of an email that I got, and this is a number of people sent me the same kind of email. Hi professor, I've just got back from work now, and I just saw your email, and I won't be able to submit today. Is there any way you can extend me until next week? And the answer is no, of course. So, you know, that's how it's going to be. Worst case, remember that I take the best 10 out of 12 or 10 out of 11 in this case, 10 out of 11 in-class exercise. If you miss one, it's okay. And if you mess one up, that's okay too. All right, so don't worry about it. Still a good chance to get 100% on everything that you're doing. All right, so that is last week. And this week, we're going to be talking about a little bit about assignment videos. I want to talk about today a little bit, just to say some stuff about assignment videos, because today is our first assignment that we're going to have. And I'm going to actually start with the assignment details, what I'm looking for today. And then JavaScript review, we're going to do a little bit of that, very, very little. And intro to TypeScript, more on TypeScript for people who haven't done it or who've forgotten about it. Node.js and Express, we're going to do that. And then, we'll talk about our road to adding more and more Express as we go. If you look at our schedule, back to that first page that I showed you. Again, remember next week there is no class on Monday for us, so there will be no classes for us. However, on week 4, I think it's a pretty important week to attend or to watch, because we're doing a bunch of stuff on week 4 and even some more stuff on week 5 that's going to help you with your assignment number 1. So please make sure you watch the videos if you haven't had a chance to come in person, as they'll be the majority of everything you need for what you need to do for the course. Let's go and take a look at your assignment, because I'd like to look at that first. Let's download it together. 2 things I've done. I've put assignment 1 details separately than assignment 1 itself. Here's something. You must subscribe to a group, and I made it a quick little groups link on the left. Here, if you look at in your Blackboard, you'll see a groups link. And in the groups link, you see that there are a number of groups that you can subscribe to. Again, you need to subscribe to a group even if you're not, or sign up to a group even if you're not working with anyone else, because in order for me to make it a group assignment, everyone must be part of a group. That's just how Blackboard works, not because I wouldn't mind individual submissions. And so the way this works is you can have 1 or 2 people. Sorry, Daryl, you had a question? Yeah.
You can do it individually, right? But you have to subscribe to a group.
You can do it individually, 100%, but you must subscribe to a group. Yeah, that's all it is. And then, just like I said to Robert earlier, if you want to work alone, you can. And if some random person that you don't know or you don't want to join with you joins your group, please let me know, and I'll remove them. Simple as that. Okay, so they can't, they won't be able to join you randomly. And even if they do, and let's say they join you last minute, I've had this happen to me before too, where on the Sunday that the assignment is due, a random person joins your group just before you're ready to submit. You let me know, and then they'll just get 0. I can always give them 0. It's not a problem, anytime, right? So don't worry about it. But, like I said, please sign up to your group today, and hopefully people will watch the video and they'll understand what to do. But I made just a convenient groups link here so that you can get to your groups. I know that's always a challenge to find groups in Blackboard. You have to go to Tools, Groups, and that's a really weird thing to do. So just go to Groups here, and then you'll see your groups. And there'll be other groups. There'll be a group set for each assignment. So each assignment will have its own group, and there's reasons for that. What if you decide to work with somebody? Let's say you want to work with this guy Tom, and for people who want to work with groups. And Tom promises you all kinds of stuff, and then Tom never shows up, right? And next time, you kind of accept that, because people do that, and which you shouldn't. But let's suppose you do, or it's the last minute. They told you that you're waited to work on your assignment till the Friday before the Sunday, all right? I'm framing it for you guys for this kind of stuff. And then on the Friday before the Sunday, where you're supposed to get together for a meeting, Tom's sick, or Tom's got a problem, or Tom is working, or Tom can't make it, and suddenly now you're stuck doing it on your own, and it's due on Sunday, but you feel bad for Tom because he's got this disaster happening in his life, as an example, and then you do it on your own. And so that I make groups for this, different group sets for this purpose, just in case next time we do assignment number 2, you're like, Tom, I'm not working with you. That's why. Right? Or you have a friend of yours, but you have another friend, and you love these 2 guys or 2 girls, and you want to work with both of them, but I'm only allowing 2 people to work on an assignment, and so you work with one the first assignment and another one the second assignment, right? So I'm just giving you options. A little bit more work for me, and you have to sign up every single time, but positive thing is for you, you have flexibility. So that's why I'm doing it. So that's the first thing. Let's take a look at that assignment then. So assignment, if we downloaded it, it's in PDF format. So let's just take a look at it together. Okay, that's a new thing for me. Here it is. So assignment in PDF format. I wanted to kind of go through it a little bit with you and kind of zoom in just a little bit, a touch in terms of how this looks. So again, it says assignment 1, Express API read only. This is why I think it's easy. And it's due week 5, Sunday, June 11th, 2023 at midnight. Value is 7.5% of your final grade. It's worth just under 2 in-class exercises. That's what it's worth. So it's kind of sized right, in my opinion. And working with a partner or on your own, create an initial version of your Express API that enables read access from MongoDB Atlas Realm. And if you've done this before and you're like, oh my God, this is free marks, you're right. Because it is kind of free marks in some ways. If you haven't done this before, then this is a great chance to learn what you didn't learn last time and get on the bandwagon of doing things the right way. Your Express API should be hosted on a cloud service such as render.com. You may also use another cloud service instead. And I mentioned them. You could use Azure, you could use AWS, you could use GCP, yeah.
When you mean cloud service, you just mean a server on the internet somewhere. So if I have my
If you have your own server, it's fine. Yeah, just let me know. Yeah, and if you, so as long as I have access to it, I'm good, right? As long as everyone else have access to it, you're good. That's fine. Your live MongoDB database should include a list of your top 20 favorite movies of all time. This is the exercise. Each movie document will include the movie title, studio, genre, director, writers, actors, year released, running time, brief description, MPA, which is the Motion Picture Association film rating, example, G, PG, R, and so on. A link to the movie poster and the critics rating. So these are all the fields that I want you to include in your schema. All right, it's not that difficult. And what it'll be is you set that up completely separately. It has nothing to do with, your Express API. If you want, some people do it and they go to the next step. They actually make it so that they have a little, administrative thing that allows them to actually do full CRUD. I'm going to probably do that in the next assignment, but if you wanted to get a jump on that, you can totally do it. I'm just letting you know. And if you did something like that, there might be additional pieces. Things that are missing from this assignment is there's no Android, there's no iOS, there's just the API, right? So why don't you guys get this right first, and then we'll connect it to an Android or iOS front end, okay? So that way it's just nice and simple, straightforward. But you need to be accurate. I want you guys to be dead accurate when it comes to the data that you have online. So pick your 20 favorite movies, whatever they are, it doesn't have to be in a specific order. Load them up on MongoDB Atlas Realm, whatever you want to call it, different names. And you're going to make a single API endpoint that lists all the movies in your database in JSON format when I go there. Okay, that's all I want. No front-end UI or authentication is required for this assignment. So there will be another assignment where authentication will be a thing, where you may have to do other stuff, connecting to a UI, like some kind of Android or iOS app. There will be that. It's coming, right? But we're going slow because some people will have huge problems just doing this part, right? Especially with the requirements that are put in. So let's take a look at the details a little bit. So part 1, developing an Express API. Your Express API must be written with TypeScript and be well structured. So that's a requirement. It's not an option. Some people are like, well, wait, you're making me do TypeScript. Yep. So that's a new thing. So before it was like, TypeScript is optional. No, TypeScript is required now. I want to see TypeScript that you're using it. You must include an appropriate folder structure utilizing the MEC design pattern, but there is no V because there's no views for this one. It's just an API, right? So you're going to have, your model and your controller and your routers separate, right? That's we're going to talk about how to do that over the weeks, how to do it properly. But there's no view because the view would only be for if you're actually doing an Express site, which we're not doing. Okay, so. You must have a package.json file listing all the project and developer dependencies. There's both project and developer dependencies. You should know the difference. What's the difference between a project and developer dependency and package.json? You're going to know at the end. You're going to know about that, right? How about my friend Daryl? Do you know the difference between a project dependency and a developer dependency for your package.json? Do you know?
I guess you're trying to say is there's like dev dependencies in package.json file and other in JSON file there's dev dependencies and there are other dependencies for the package. Is that okay?
That's what I mean. Yeah, and we'll talk about why you need them both. And then you must use TypeScript and the ESM module pattern. So ESM module pattern is ECMAScript module pattern. That's what it is, which means import and export. You must use that, not require. Requires done. So we're not using requires anymore. If you used requires before with your old version of Node, if you did that, we're not doing it this semester at all. Right? So just letting you know. And your project must include a TypeScript configuration file, tsconfig.json, right? That basically complies to making this all work with you, right? Okay, so number 2, your Express API will provide a single endpoint that connects to your MongoDB database hosted on MongoDB Atlas Realm. Notice I didn't say a NoSQL database that's hosted on Realm or Firebase. Firebase we're doing later. Okay, so we're just not going to do that right now. One thing at a time. And provides a listing of your favorite movies. Hey, no problem. Let's take a look at what the details are on this one. So your Express API should use the Mongoose NPM module to connect to MongoDB Atlas /Realm. You must include an appropriate model schema for your movie collection. And your Express API should provide a single API endpoint that returns a list of your top 20 movies of all time in JSON format. That's all I'm looking for, right? Pretty simple. Number 3, your MongoDB database will include a collection of your top 20 favorite movies of all time. So I'm actually paying you to do the content too, right? Which is, you're getting 25 marks for that. Your collection must be named movies, right? I know that people have named them different things, like top 20 movies or something else. We're going to keep it movies. Your movies collection must be structured with the documents that include the following properties. I listed them there. And you must include at least 20 movies in your collection. I know I've said this over and over again, but some people will add like 5 movies. I've done this, kind of assignment just a couple of times in my life, right? And people do weird stuff. They give me only part of the properties. They only show some of it. They only do weird stuff, and or they don't add the poster link or any of that stuff. All these things that I'm asking you to do, you're going to consume with an Android application at some point in the future, or iOS, right? So you need it all. And if you don't have this one, then the next assignment's going to be impossible to do. Just letting you know. All right, so that's why I'm getting you to do it. This is just, think about a bigger assignment broken down into 2 little parts. 7.5% here, and there's another 7.5% somewhere else. It's almost like you're doing the entire thing, but in smaller pieces, so you guys can chunk it out, and it shouldn't be that crazy. Part 4, include internal documentation for your site. All right, now this is a weird thing for people. They don't like documentation, and I'm putting some stuff in here that you need. Ensure you include a comment header for your TypeScript files that indicate the file names, students' names, student ID, and date. You probably should do that, and it should be something that's not gonna kill the file. It's not gonna go in your JavaScript files. It must only go in your TypeScript files, because your JavaScript files shouldn't have any comments at all in them. Okay, just your TypeScript stuff, because that's your developer side. Ensure you include function comment headers for all your TypeScript functions that include a brief description, the parameter names and types, and the return type. We'll talk about how to do that. And ensure all your code uses contextual variable names that can help make the files human readable. I don't want to see X and Y. I've mentioned this many times in the past, unless you're using coordinates somehow. If it's X and Y coordinates, that's when it applies. Otherwise, it's contextual file names the entire way. Inline comments that describe your app's functionality as required. You may not need these, right? And the reason why I put it in here is because some people over-comment the crap out of things. When I say comment stuff, they take it a little bit too seriously, and they go crazy and they comment everything. And I don't need it commented so thoroughly. I just need it commented where you think you require it. If you're trying to write something and you're trying to say, well, I made this function and this function does this, right? And you want to communicate something to me because somehow your function wasn't named properly, or somehow it's not human readable, and you want to talk to me about some kind of algorithm you wrote. I don't know why. But if you did that, that's the only reason why you want to add inline comments. I don't need you to comment, this is a for loop, this is a debug statement. I don't need you to do those things. That's ridiculous. All right, and it's a waste of my time and a whole hell of a waste of your time. Okay, so please don't do that. Share your files on GitHub to demonstrate version control best practices, and push your site to a cloud host. Right. So I kind of broke these 2 pieces out a little bit more. So I said your repository must be private with your instructor added as a collaborator. This is weird. I got some for in-class exercise 1, I got some people that made their site, and somehow I got an email, but it was inaccessible. And the reason why that is because I have 2 emails that I use. I mentioned only one. And some people send it to my other email. And of course, that other email has no access to this stuff. So you send it to the wrong people, wrong person. And it wasn't a test. It just happens every semester where people don't follow instructions and they don't follow, send it to my last name only at hotmail.com. And I've tried to think about ways of making this easier, like maybe making another email address that just says, I don't know, like the course name at whatever. Seriously, I was just trying to think of something to make it easier, but I don't think that would help. I would still think that some people would just mess that up. So, if for whatever reason an in-class exercise or your application or your assignment is inaccessible, you just will lose your marks for GitHub. Like GitHub, I mean, you see it's worth 5 marks. If I can't see it for whatever reason, immediately you've lost 5 marks off your of this assignment, right? Now it's 5 marks out of 7.5%, so it's not a huge loss, but I mean, every single time it'll add up, right? And also, I won't be able to check your code. I'd have to, if it doesn't work out, you might lose even more marks because then I can't give you part marks. So even though GitHub only worth 5 marks, it's actually could potentially worth a lot more, right? So your repository must be appropriately named. Yeah, that's important. Well structured means, it has to be right. And your repository must include your code. Sometimes I get repositories that have nothing in them, right? If your repository is empty, you're not even going to get a mark. It's going to be 0, right? So I know that there's another thing I got from some people in the class. I got a repository and they made it and it's completely empty, right? Completely. And some people, they think it's a trick. By the way, I'm not saying anything about people here. I have multiple classes, and so I got a lot of email yesterday, last night especially, right? Because people did it last minute, like I told you guys not to do. And last night I got bombarded with a bunch of email, and some people had nothing in their GitHub repository. And I guess what they're thinking is, well, I can add it later, and even if Tom, he got my repository, and I added it, and he won't know. Guys, everything is timestamped. So if you add something after the time, it's 0, right? It doesn't matter if you added it late, it's still 0, so don't do that kind of stuff. I don't know why you did that, or somehow you forgot, or you thought it worked, but it didn't, and this is your attempt. If your attempt has nothing in there, and it's just the name of your repository, 0. So that's why I say it must include your code. Your repository must include commits that demonstrate the project being updated at different stages of development. Each time a major change is implemented, all team members must be shown to have made commits to the code base. In other words, you must demonstrate that each person on the team is an equal partner, right? If you can't do that, and if you say something like, we don't know how to merge, we don't know how to do this, we don't know how to do that, again, I'm going to refer you back to internet. The internet's a beautiful tool for figuring out how to share and do stuff and everything else and collaborate with somebody else. You'd have to make that other person a collaborator. And what they would have to do is, that's why I'm saying it's 1 or 2 people, you would have to give them a job to do in this scenario. Okay, so imagine if I had 2 people doing this assignment, what would each person do? That's the thing that you have to ask yourself. Maybe person number 1 could deal with the Express side, and person number 2 can populate the movie database, you might think. Okay, but then what is person number 2 going to do from a commit perspective, right? So it's kind of a weird thing, and that's why it's a small assignment. It could be done by one person by themselves. And if you might have somebody that says something like, well, maybe the person who's going to be dealing with the database is also going to be dealing with the model, the schema. Okay, no problem. I like that approach. It's very small, like to do. Or maybe they're going to just be doing anything to do with connecting to the database, the schema, connecting to Mongo and whatever. Great. I think it's a great idea. And then the other person can deal with the Express endpoint and setting up the project and that stuff. I think that's a pretty good, balance between the 2 things. Maybe the person with the schema and the MongoDB database has more to do, actually, in that case, right, than the other person. Or you might say, well, we entered all the data together, like content-wise. All the content was entered together, and then the person with the database just took care of, the database. They own the database on Realm. I don't know. Well, my point is, it's difficult. These assignments are very small, and it's, I'd like you to make an equal partner. You must deploy your site to your cloud server using Git and GitHub. This will demonstrate CI/CD best practices. And when people ask me what CI/CD is, continuous integration, continuous deployment is what I'm talking about. And of course, it's automatic. We're not looking at like DevOps here. level of CI/CD. We're just seriously just looking at like your GitHub is connected to your cloud site somewhere, and then if something changes on your GitHub, something automatically changes on your cloud site. That's what it should be. Now that's where that might mess you up if you're using a home-built server or something like that. I'm just saying, right? So, but if you wanted to make that happen, it's not impossible. It just means that you have to figure out all those webhooks, right, to make it happen. Your site should be hosted on render.com or another cloud provider of your choice, such as AWS and Microsoft Azure or GCP. Those are my suggestions. Your Express API should use continuous integration, continuous deployment with Git and GitHub. This means that whenever you modify your code, commit, and push your changes to GitHub, your Express API set is automatically updated. All right, that's what's going to happen, and that's really the functionality. That's it. That's all I'm asking for, right? Number 7 is video, right? Video. I give you 10 marks. That's 10% of your assignment, right? That's 0.75% of your final grade, right, is your video. So please, for people who are watching this video, take it seriously, right? It's serious. It's mandatory. I won't even accept your assignment without your video, right? So if you submit an assignment to me, your video is private, I can't access it, or it's garbage, like I can't see it, hear it, or I can see it, but I can't hear your voice, or something's wrong with your video, you and your partner potentially would get 0, and there is no takebacks, there's no resubmissions or anything like that. It is what it is. You have until the due date to get it done, right? So you need to have 4 assignments. I remember I talked about this. I said, for in-class exercises, you just have to make a short video with your voice, talk about your stuff, and 1 or 2 minutes and see you later. However, for assignments, it's slightly different. And this stuff that I have written here mirrors what I'm going to talk about next here when it comes to assignment videos. This is just something that I want to talk about right away, right? Just to make sure that we're good. So this semester, you'll be required to make short demonstration videos for each of your assignments and some of your in-class exercise. There will be some that you won't need to do it. You can use favorite screen capture and streaming tool. I recommend OBS to record your screen. Upload your recording to YouTube or another streaming service. Upload the working video to Blackboard, okay? A video submission is mandatory. Your assignments will not be accepted without it. I'll put it here in the PowerPoint so you know this is an extra piece. And this part is what I'm talking about in the document, which is the exact same thing. All I've done is take that part that I wrote in my PowerPoint and put it right here. And let me explain what this part is. The single slide. Why do I make you make a single slide? I'm making you make a title card. That's all I'm doing. So it's like basically one title card. That's all the single slide is, where you have the face of yourself and potentially your partner, or just yourself. And you say, hi. And then, by the way, this image has to be an actual image of you, all right? So it could be an image from your student ID. It could be an image that you just took against the wall. Maybe you're a friend of yours, wife, girlfriend, whatever. Boyfriend, took an image of you, and it doesn't have to be professional, as long as it's of you, right? It's not you in a field, it's not you drinking, or do something really weird or inappropriate. It's got to be you, right? As a student, and so recognizable as you, and basically say like, hi, my name is Tom, and this is my video for assignment 1, Express APIs, read only, right? And then that title card is gone. Right? You don't have to see that title card anymore. I don't need the PowerPoint document. People give me this one card that they upload. That's not a requirement for the submission. I don't need it. It's just for your video. It's so it frames your video. It's kind of like the first thing that I see is, I see who this person is. All right, and and you're going to be talking to it and everything else. It's also something else. It's also you saying, this is me, right? This is me. This is who I am. I've never met you before, most likely. Most people in the class are not here, right? So, so that's the only thing I want. It's got to include your full name, your student ID, the course code, the course name, and your assignment information. That's one slide for that. That's it. And then you will demonstrate your app's functionality. All I want to see is the functionality of this app. So in other words, for the Express API assignment, I want you to go up online and say, okay, so let's see how this works. And here's the site, Tom. And try it out. And then once you show me that, and I can see that it's going to spit out your list of favorite movies, awesome. You will briefly describe the code that just drives the functionality of your site. And I mean super brief. And you could include things like app.ts or your router files or your controller files or your model classes or whatever, that you want, but I mean really brief. You can say something like, hey, here's my model class. You can see here that it connects to my MongoDB Atlas database. You can actually show your MongoDB Atlas database with the details. That might be a good thing to do. You know, and just describe your stuff, your content, your code nicely. And then sound for your video must be at an appropriate level, so your voice must be clearly heard. Your screen resolution must be good, so I can clearly see your code and your stuff. And your video should run no more than 5 minutes, even though if it's an assignment. And your video may be unlisted, but must be accessible to the instructor. I have to say that because some people are like, I enlisted my video, and then I'm like, well, but I can't see it. So it's private. If you made your video private somehow, I would need a password. Please don't do that. Don't make it passworded. Just give me it unlisted. As long as I have the link and it's on YouTube, you're golden. It'll work. Submitting your work. So a zip archive of your project files. I want, as a backup, a zip archive of your website's project files. All right? I'm probably never going to use it. But what if, for whatever reason, you messed up Git and GitHub? Then I can look at your project files. Worst case scenario, your project files, your zip archive of your project files and your GitHub repository must match. Okay? Don't give me like your project files from like 2, commits ago, and now you've changed something. I don't want that. I want them to be the exact same version. Okay? And so all you're doing for me is just downloading the stuff from GitHub, right? And that's a great way of doing it. And so it's a clean version of your files. If your site files are something like crazy for some reason, like hundreds of megabytes, it's because you don't have a proper gitignore file, which we'll talk about over the next little while, okay? No gitignore file means that all your node modules go up online, which we don't need, right? We don't need your node modules online. Okay, a link to your GitHub, is preferable, right? It's required, it's preferable than just your zip archive. And a link to your live portfolio site, it should say your live site, this is wrong, hosted on a cloud provider is required, and a link to your video presentation is also required, right? So your live site should be something that you give me. This shouldn't say portfolio site, I'll update that later. Okay, copy paste errors. So, for the people that are here and online, any questions around what I need? I think it's stupidly simple. I'm sorry to say that, right?
You said the word "you" so many times for that picture. You got it.
I'm just saying. I know it's like ridiculously simple. And I'm saying this. The reason why I'm saying it's simple is because all of you should know what to do here, and this is me understanding what you can do. But it's also dividing the assignment into smaller chunks, like I said earlier, so that people who don't know what to do don't feel intimidated. And one thing I want to tell you guys, I'm not going to judge you. This is not that kind of class. I'm not that type of person. I'm not going to judge you. If you submit the stuff and it works for me, I'm good. I don't care, right? I'm not going to judge you how you do stuff or what tool you use to put it up on YouTube or whatever, or Loom or whatever tool you want to use. I don't recommend Loom, and I don't recommend Vimeo. I don't recommend any of those other services. Maybe Twitch, if you're a gamer, if you want to try and putting up there. But I mean, I don't know why you would do this. YouTube is just the simplest, easiest thing you can possibly do. I just recommend it. It's good for you to do it anyway, and it kind of goes through your code. Daryl, and are you okay as well? No problem? Okay. Let's continue. Please don't feel intimidated, though. If you're not okay, please ask me questions, right? Yeah. So that's what this says. And it says no more than 5 to 10 minutes. The reason why I'm saying 5 to 10 minutes maximum on the PowerPoint slide is because I don't want you to feel that, if you wanted to go a little late, more than 5 minutes, let's say you had some other things you wanted to talk about, to discuss some things that you are thinking about or whatever, your thoughts. I'm okay listening to you for like 5 or just over 5 minutes. But after that, I mean, I got lots to mark, right? So it's going to be skip. And I'm just going to, you can put however long it takes. I'm just going to take whatever out of it that I can. And some people complain to me, they put their hand up and they're like, Professor, I recorded a 30-minute video, but you only watched like 30 seconds of it. And I'm like, yeah, I did. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I only got the piece that I needed, and then I was good. I knew that you knew or you didn't know what you were supposed to do, and then that was it for me. So the video that you're making is for me. It's not for you. So if I watch it for 30 seconds, or if I watch it for 5 minutes, that's on me to do, right? So, but I need it. I need to know that it's you, and I need to know that you know what you're doing. That's it for the assignment. Any questions at all before we go on? I know, it's simple, but, and people might be like, wait, that's it? That's all Tom wants? And yep, that's all I want. I want to see if you guys can do this. Some people won't be able to do it. So that's okay. I'm going to just do a small stop right now and stop recording this one. And this is just about the assignment. And then we'll go into the next piece, which is the next part we want to talk about. So I'm going to stop recording here on Teams, and then I'll stop recording on YouTube.